First of all, I want to thank Life Administration for this invitation. And I'm very happy that Reverend Fathers Provincial, Mission Superior, Rector, and other Jesuit friends, Reverend Sisters, and faculty members, researchers from Loyola institutions, and friends and well-wishers are here. I thank you for your presence, and I would like to dedicate this talk to Dr. Swaminathan. Not only it is the endowment lecture in his name, I was inspired by him in many ways. The one thing was hard work. I remember even when he met with an accident, when he was hardly able to move, he will come with auto and then he will spend time with students. And it is not very easy to get out of hold of Dr. Swaminathan. Once you are caught, either you do it or he will do it. So thank you, Dr. Swaminathan. I'm very happy. And this topic, people are asking me, what is this dark matter? I said, come to my talk, I will throw some light on it. As mentioned earlier, this was already given at Boston College, where I am the Gasson Professor. The Gasson Professor is some privileged position. You don't need to teach. You don't need to struggle in the lab. You give one public lecture a semester. That's all. So I have finished one. One will be on the 4th April. The rest of the time I have to write at least 2 books and publish. So that is the Gasson Professor's job. Plus I am also busy with the Jesuit Worldwide Learning that makes me to be on the move all the time. Sometimes I don't know which country I am in. So far within a year I have traveled only about 95,000 kilometers. And for the time being I am taking break and then I will continue once this Gasson Professor is over. And all these experiences, meeting with scientists in various places, has helped me to formulate this. So this is, I am taking the dark matter and dark energy, and you would see that it is different from the matter and energy we are talking about. And you will also see that people who are in physics and chemistry, the equivalence or correlation between matter and energy is not applicable to dark matter and dark energy. And also you will see physics students have always learned when they start with special theory of relativity, physics laws hold good in all frames of reference. And I am going to say it may not be true. So with all due respect to Dr. Einstein, so I will show what happens where it is applicable. So one final remark, if you don't understand, don't worry. Many don't understand, including myself, but try to make sense of what we have. So I am going to talk about what is the discovery, how we have understood this topic today. Ptolemy, in the 2nd century BC, he said the earth is spherical, motionless, and it is the center of the universe. This was believed at least for 19 or 20 centuries. Till in 1920, physicists believed that the universe is static with unchanging size. It was created, it is there. But Hubble came in 1929, he was studying the exploding stars You know, the Hubble telescope is the one that is taking pictures. It can take pictures up to 1 million light years, and it is not able to do beyond that. And he said the galaxies are moving away. The further they are, the faster they are, and at a speed of 90 million miles per hour or 40,000 kilometers per second. It's moving away. So in 1933, Fritz Zwicky, a Swiss scientist, said this matter that we see and the energy that we are able to see don't tally. There is a difference between the visible, observable matter and the matter actually that exists there. So he gave the name Dunkle Materie, that is French, the German name, translated into dark matter, and it is faithfully kept. The better word could be invisible matter, but sometimes it gets stuck. So in 1963, Vera Rubin, she recently died 2 years ago in Boston. She was studying the rotation of the universe, and she said that is anisotropy. The universe is not rotating in the ordered way. There is anisotropy of rotation of galaxies and the expansion of the universe. It is not uniform. So she said there is dark matter encompassing the spiral galaxies all over the place. Then in 1970, there was general acceptance that that the rotating galaxies and the stabilizing gravitational attraction of dark matter. The more and more evidences were coming, and also in 1990 they were studying, they wanted to study the deceleration of distant stars. They thought the universe is coming closer together because of the gravity. To their surprise, they found they are going away. In 2005, in Cardiff University, UK, they said in most galaxies, the visible matter, what you have perceptible matter, is only in a smaller quantity. And for example, in the Virgo cluster, you know, all these Milky Ways and all are named. One such thing is called Virgo HI21. It is about 50 million light years away. The light year means, you know, light travels at a speed of 3 into 10 power 10 meter per second. You multiply for minute, multiply for day, week, years, and million. So that is the light, million light years away. It is made up of almost but dark matter. That means you don't see it, but then you will ask the question, how do you perceive it? I will come to that. It comes in the gravitational waves. They do what happens, it affects the gravitational waves. Therefore, there is an understanding now that the dark matter and dark energy pervades all through the universe like the unconscious pervading all over our conscious system. We are conscious of something, but where is that consciousness? A neurosurgeon, they will say there is one little spot in the brain, but it is there all over the thing. So dark matter is all over. You cannot say dark matter is here or it is there. It is there, only thing we are not able to perceive it. Then in 2012, Christoph Weniger found out there is a strange radiation coming from the galaxy, and he found out this is dark matter smashing on the visible matter. The effect is seen on a gravitational field not on individual smaller particles. And last year, October, just 2 weeks before my talk, they found out that the gravitational waves reached us as an after effect of collision of two neutron stars. I'll show the picture, but this happened 130 million years ago. So it has taken such a long time to come, so you can imagine how powerful it would have been at that distance. If you are sitting on the earth, you are able to find out. So it is enormous, and Satya Prakash of Cardiff University said, study of neutron stars, supernovae, etc., together with Einstein's theory of relativity would help us to solve the riddle of dark matter and dark energy. You may be surprised that Einstein guessed dark matter and dark energy. And he has even put in his equation a constant, and somebody said dark matter is not there, he removed it. Then later he said, this is the biggest blunder I have ever made in my life. So he had inclination about this one. So this is the one where you see two neutron stars are colliding and the waves are transmitted and comes to that, and also the same thing like the two black holes colliding. This is the Hubble picture. Now coming to this, how do you perceive the reality? Down the corridor of the time, you see it has been developing for better understanding. Aristotle, in the 4th century before Common Era, said the world is one-dimensional, up and down. So what is in heaven is on earth. It's called the what you call the correspondence principle. What belongs to the earth will be there, what belongs to the earth will be there. Therefore, if you throw a stone, it will not go up because it doesn't belong there. It has to come down here. Only later you know it is the gravitational force. Later came Euclid, the father of geometry. In the next century, he said the world is two-dimensional. It's a flat XY plane. After 13 centuries, Newton comes and says the world is three-dimensional because x, y, z, the height and the depth are there, you have to take. Then comes Einstein in the 20th century, no, that is not enough. What happens to the time? So time and space you cannot separate. So space-time continuum, he says the world is four-dimensional. Then in addition to the space-time, the matter wave quantum world is coming up. Do we have the real picture now? No. Newton's world is absolute deterministic world. He will say if I start running from here at 5 kilometers per hour in the direction of east, tomorrow 10 o'clock you will tell me where I will be. It's a deterministic. But if you come to the quantum theory, the concept of probability or uncertainty, they will say we don't know where you will be. And the same thing they will say, if a cat goes and keeps on hitting at the door, Newton's world will say cat can never go into the other side. Quantum world will say possible that cat could go other side without breaking it. That ask the physics people, they are talking about the electronic tunneling and all those things. So this is the picture, probably you will be there. So, but in general, if you take the micro world, the quantum mechanics will hold good. If you take the macro world, then general theory of relativity. Now, the next one is, I am trying to introduce the fifth dimension. Not many are working here, 2 groups are working. It is the fifth dimension is the consciousness. You are existing because I am conscious of your presence. I am able to perceive you. If I don't see you, you don't exist. That doesn't mean you are not existing. For me, you don't exist. So the consciousness is very important. Whatever you say, whatever you see, so the reality is as one perceives beyond deterministic and relativistic world. So it is a possibility. You exist? Possible. Are you sitting? Probably. So there is a spectrum of possibilities of probability. So the world is not deterministic. It cannot be controlled by physical laws or any law. Ultimately, you have to interact or perceive the reality. If you don't, it is not. Why I am bringing this dark matter you don't perceive doesn't matter. It does not mean dark matter doesn't exist. You don't perceive. So is only 5-dimensional? No, there is multidimensional. If you ask maths people, they will say the string theory is one of the tools to elucidate the reality. And if you read the book, The Grand Design by Hawking, he says, making use of the string theory, they are able to predict at least 10 dimensions are there in the world. So still there is a lot of possibilities for the physics and chemistry students to explore what are the other dimensions of that. Now, what do we do? How do we understand the universe? Science has not said the final word. At least that much humility we have. We don't say that we have said the final word. The moment somebody says, I have reached the final word, something comes up and you are helpless. The concept of missing or invisible matter is something that you need to explore. The answer points out to Big Bang. You may believe in creation, you may believe in Big Bang, whatever it is started with a bang. Where did the energy come from? It is an enormous explosion. I will tell you how it is and how it happened. This is what the Big Bang, your Big Bang, really Big Bang, explosion of that. And what was the conditions at that time? Initially, there was no form, there was emptiness and darkness, void. If you read the Bible, exactly the same things are said. There is void, there is a difference between vacuum and void. And it happened about 13.7 billion years ago, according to the estimate by the scientists. And the universe was a few millimeters across, just this bit of matter. Some are very generous, they say a few centimeters, so it depends how you take it. And the temperature was 10 to the power 31, it is called Planck temperature. 1 followed by 31 zeros, that was the temperature of the thing. And the Boyle's law, PV is equal to RT, that is the product of pressure and volume equals to the temperature and a constant. So forget this R, it is a constant. When the volume is so few cubic centimeters and the temperature is 10 power 31, we can see what should be the pressure. And that is the pressure that have a Big Bang. It exploded that. And now after that, you try to have two other formulas. Energy is equal to the product of Planck constant, which is really small, and a temperature. So the energy is related with the energy, and also E is equal to mc square. C is constant, so energy is related to the mass. That is Einstein's equation. So this is what we perceive, but it doesn't tally with the reality. For example, in the universe, always there is a symmetry, and there is also a balance. If you have a positive charge, there should be negative charge. If there is daylight, there should be night. If it is male, there is female. This is called yin-yang principle in Chinese. But here we can say that at the creation, at the Big Bang, particles were created and there should have been equal number of antiparticles. If you have positive charge, you should have negative charge. If you have particle A, then particle A minus should be there. Where are they now? And antiparticles are mirror image of normal matter, and only thing they may not have a charge or a spin, something will be missing there. But if ever you bring particle and antiparticle, they will destroy each other. Only radiation will come. Life can never come up. You bring a particle, antiparticle. If you want to read more about that, I recommend the novel Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. About 50 pages he spends on this. The research is supposed to be taken in CERN. CERN is just 3 kilometers from the house where I am living in Geneva. And so this is the particle, antiparticle. So the question is, where did this enormous energy come? Dark energy. And after initial Big Bang, what happened? The universe was like nuclear fusion. That's what the sun is doing. You put 4 hydrogen atoms and you get helium. The whole universe was a nuclear fusion at that time. And then where did the asymmetry coming here? And what do we do with asymmetry? And you can see, look at the atom. Atom is a neutral as far as the charge is concerned. It has got a nucleus which is positively charged. In it you have protons and neutrons and electrons negatively charged. And neutron itself is a combination of proton and pi means and positive charge and negative charge. That's why the neutron is slightly heavier than proton. But now people say proton is not the fundamental particle. It is made of quarks, and not one quark, 3 quarks. And now the problem is, how do you distribute the charges? 1/3 positive, 1/3 negative, then what happens to the other one? Or they are still struggling that, so still they are busy with that. When we say our universe, we mean the Milky Way. The solar system is one of the system in about 600 billion system in the Milky Way, and Milky Way is one of the system in about few billion systems in the universe. So when we say our universe, we have the Milky Way, and in the Milky Way, especially the Earth, it is filled with life. That means antiparticle cannot be there or are not there. If antiparticle comes, they destroy. So, but there are certain antiparticles, very little is there, but distant galaxies are filled with antiparticles. So the distant particles are pushed away so that life can come, originate on the Earth. So it is not simply by chance it has happened, by a design it has happened. So if you take all these equations, PV is equal to RT is equal to KT is mc square, there is little mass is there in the universe, but dense energy is there. And we will come to that. And also there is imbalance between mass and energy here. This mass doesn't tally with this energy. It's okay in BSc to say E is equal to mc square, you take it and go. But when you actually deal and apply to the universe, it is very difficult to do that. One way of understanding is thermodynamics. The thermodynamics says energy is neither created nor destroyed, but can be converted. So here you can say when you are converting the energy, there is some things coming up, entropy, that is unavailable energy. So what happens to this unavailable energy? So the available energy continuously decreases finally you are going to heat death. You say you have energy, then you are dying. And also this gives us, if you extrapolate backward, initially there was enormous amount of energy was there. Now it is going on decreasing the available energy. That is the Big Bang. But what made the Big Bang with small amount of matter, the very high temperature, this dark energy or the invisible energy is the one that gave the Big Bang, which we cannot account from our perspective. Therefore, that invisible energy is the dark energy that we have. So here you see the Milky Way. This is just a tiny part of the universe and it is always rotating. This dark energy keeps the rotation constantly going. Have you ever imagined that all the planets are there and you say they are attracting one another, that's why they are standing in orbit? But have you ever thought why the whole system is not going down? It's okay, you attract each other, you keep in touch, but the whole thing will be going down. It is not going down. They are embedded on the so-called dark energy. As though it is, you take a towel, four corners you hold, you put the balls, that it bulges little bit here, there, but still it is there, it doesn't go down. So the dark energy gives you a scaffolding for these materials to do that. So if you say that our Milky Way is made up of matter, the Milky Way itself is 80,000 light years in diameter and 60 light years thickness. So this Milky Way is so vast, but that is a tiny bit in the universe. Then the antimatter is coming from anti-region, which is region of powerful flux of radiation. We are talking all the time there is radiation coming from outside. These are the source. We know certain things is coming from the sun, but there are so many things. And you may ask, should I believe in matter and antimatter? You should, because they have done it. So here you can say you can produce antimatter, not very much to little bit. You take for example carbon 14. In the neutron decay, it goes to proton, electron, antineutrino. Neutrino is a strange particle. We say it is there, we are not seen it, we are not, but we believe, physicists, we believe there is neutrino. But the same thing, take a neon, these are the isotopes. The proton decay gives you proton, positron, neutrino. So neutrino is here, antineutrino is here. If neutrino is particle, antineutrino is antiparticle. These scientists are doing it. And also, is reversible conversion possible? Yes. For any scientific thing, it should be reversible. So here you take an antineutrino and put it along with proton, you get positron and a neutron. Positron is the positive and it is reversible. The same way neutrino and the neutron will give you electron and proton. Positron is positive charge, electron negative charge. So you get. So particle and antiparticle real. Only thing we don't have that much in our system. And how all these things are discovered or found out, whether neutrino, antineutrino, all these things. This is called the cloud chamber experiment. Physics students are familiar with that, especially in CERN. They accelerate the particles. One goes in the clockwise, other goes in the anti-clockwise. They keep on accelerating. And at one point when it is coming closer to the velocity of light is the fastest one, you cannot go beyond that. Then they put a box with soap, bubbles are there. The soap gives the vapors and it is there on the surface. You might have seen on a day like this, when you go in the car, you see a film like things, no? And it is like that, and they allow the particles to collide. And you can see particles, some going here, some going here, some going this way, some going this way. There is symmetry everywhere, you can see. This takes in a fraction of second, it takes about 10 years to study this, what all these things are. So you can see that if there is always symmetry, if one thing goes here, another will go here, and if one goes this way, another will go this way. So they study the spin, all those things, they are there. So how do we come to that? It was predicted, and it was found out, and it is being studied. Paul Dirac already in 1928 said, we teach in the BSc E is equal to mc square. He said, why don't you call it E is equal to plus or minus mc square? When you say what is the root of 4, every child will say plus or minus 2. In the derivation, somewhere you are taking square root, then you say E is equal to mc square. Paul Dirac said, why don't you think of minus mc square? And that from there he said, he predicted there is positron as anti-electron. We saw earlier it was produced. In Carl Anderson said he discovered positron in a cloud chamber. That was the experiment I showed you. And in Berkeley, they discovered antiproton. Proton is positive antiproton, they found out. In 1998, they discovered anti-atom. But it survived only 40 nanoseconds. So there is antiparticle available. We are not aware of it. And in 2012, the Higgs boson was there. It is called God particle, meaning this is the most fundamental particle, that is quark. But now scientists are not sure whether this is the most fundamental. There is another most fundamental particle are there. They are not sure about that. So the dark matter is a blank state. How and why generated, nobody knows. But it is there. If you take the solid atom, is mostly empty space. The atom, you think it is densely populated, it is not. You have the thick core called nucleus, and the electrons are kind of clouds. If you could blow up an electron, an atom, to the size of this universe, the size of this earth, then you can see electron with naked eye. But then the nucleus will be somewhere small. So the whole matter, you call it solid matter, is empty. The same thing, the universe, the dark matter, dark energy, though it is empty for us, it is there. So, and the dark matter don't interact with electromagnetic force. It doesn't absorb light, reflects light, there is no emission of light, so it is invisible. We see each other because of reflection of light. If there is no reflection, that's why at night we don't see each other, because no reflection of light. But the gravitational effect is felt. As I told you, when two neutrons are colliding, then it comes, even though after 130 million years ago it reaches there, and you study there. And the amount of matter visible in cosmos is not sufficient to account for the movement of stars and galaxies. The dark matter, dark energy are making the stars move. At the same time, they make sure they don't fly off or they don't collapse into each other. So it is a controlling mechanism. So they hold the stars together from flying off, and intergalactic space at the same time cause expansion. And if you ask what is the ratio of dark matter to visible matter, 6:1. So the visible matter we see, the invisible matter 6 times, but I told you there is nothing to do with the invisible energy, they are two different things. So Richard Marcy said the dark matter is invisible and transparent, but there is gravity. And he said he created abundantly during the Big Bang. And Lindau from Berkeley National Lab said the cosmologists are mapping of unseen mass through gravitational deflection of light coming from source from far away. You can find similar things when the light comes, it deflects. That also you can see from the general theory of Einstein, the light deflects. You can see that. So, in 1977, it was postulated that all the antimatters are centered in the center of galaxy. We are at one corner of that. And also they form a scaffold like DNA in biology for visible matters. As I told you that all these planets are floating on the dark matter and they are energizing, which we don't see, but they are acting. We can say the visible galaxy of clusters are embedded in dark matter. So now the suspicion of the cosmologists is the initial dark matter formed a framework around which normal matter could coagulate. So it is surrounding. Like if we say there is air here, we don't see, but we know we are breathing in and out. So similar to that, you cannot say that dark matter is not visible, but it is there, the reality is embedded into that. And it is associated with the vacuum in space, distributed in the universe, but no local gravitation. It doesn't, it's not on a minor scale, but major ones. And it is also a repulsive force accelerating the expansion of the universe. It does both keep the universe intact. And now the universe, what we see, what we perceive, is only 4.6% of the matter present, and 23% invisible matter and 72% dark energy. That's what I told you. Don't try to find equivalence between matter and energy here, like E is equal to mc square. Doesn't work here. So Big Bang is the one which created the dark energy, and Weinberg, he got Nobel Prize for this work. The explosion occurring simultaneously everywhere, particles rushing away. So some galaxies contain about 10 times non-visible matters to the visible matter. This is the official picture of NASA. So here you say what you perceive, the atoms and all those things, only 4.6%. Dark matter is 24%, dark energy is 71. So the dark energy is something about nearly 3/4 of us or the universe, but not in our hometown or in our Milky Way. So this dark energy is a strong force. It is permeating all the space, creating repulsive forces, causing an ever expansion of the universe, mainly to keep off the antiparticle. And it was first formulated by Einstein. And these repulsive forces also stops galaxies from falling into each other due to mutual gravitational force. You know, all the planets are attracting each other. They should not come and collapse. So they see that you don't collapse. At the same time, they see you don't fly off. So they are controlling the whole thing. Otherwise, this formula is well known. The force of attraction between one object and other object is proportional to the product and inversely proportional square of the distance. So the bigger the particle is, the more is the energy, so you don't want to collapse. So again, another proof to say the dark matter is essential to hold galaxies together and mainly to keep off antiparticles from particles, otherwise there will be annihilation. This is what the Big Bang happened. It happened here with a temperature of 10 power 31, and it started flying off. As it fly off, it started rotating because it has to cool down. Because of the rotation, you get the spherical shape. Otherwise, it will be like nebulous state. So, and it go on, and it is going on, and it's still going on. So the effect of Big Bang is still there, and it is expanding, and it is going on. And how to understand this? This is called the inflation theory. You take a balloon you put some dots here, you blow still further, the dots are going apart. Still you blow further, the dots are there. The same dots or different dots? Same dots, but universe is expanding. So this is a simple thing to show the universe is going on and on expanding, and what happens is after the Big Bang, universe expanded like the balloon, and this expansion is necessary to keep off the particles from getting in touch with antiparticles, and also the Big Bang is due to the dark energy and inflation of matter due to dark matter. So these two different activities are there. So now characteristics of dark matter. The dark matter is the missing matter, or we call it terra incognito, which we don't see that. And it is composed of a particle called axion that they said given a name 1977. Axion is very little mass, doesn't interact with others, no electric charge, no spin, no kinetic energy, but it has got the gravity. Gravity is the only property it has got. That's why you are not able to see, doesn't absorb light, reflects light, you can't see that one. But that's why when big stars are colliding, you are able to see the gravitational waves coming to you otherwise. You take analogy photon, this light is formed of photon. Again, the physicists have not decided whether it is a particle or a wave. Sometimes it behaves like a particle, sometimes behaves like a wave, but the photon is the basic particle, and it has got zero mass, zero electric charge, but it is real because it has got momentum and energy. Neutrino, another one, no charge, extremely small, spin half, feeble interaction with other matter, but it has got energy and velocity. And so this is, you can see that apparent contradiction is real. So the dark matter, dark energy also different from others. So the antimatter, as I said earlier, is deposited in the center of the galaxy, and dark matter is the scaffold where the universe is being embedded, and also the dark matter coagulates around the antimatter, which we are not able to perceive. And this dark energy is the one that causes expansion of the universe because of the repulsive force. It keeps all the time particle and antiparticle to be away. At the same time, there is negligible effect on anything smaller than the supercluster. Only on the major scale it exhibits. Like in our system, gravity is dominant. The gravity is attractive, but you go on beyond, then the dark energy is dominant and the gravity is repulsive. So according to astronomers, dark energy causes cosmological evolution right from the Big Bang. If things have to come, antiparticles are kept away, particles, they originate life, and then they safeguard that. So it is an impulsive force pushing against space and time. The expansion of the universe implies fabric of space is filled with dark energy. You don't see it, but it is there, and it is pushing the space outward, accelerates the universe. See to it that they don't collapse into each other, but it is smooth and persistent through the universe with constant density. Now, it's also impulsive force. If we take the consequence, the dark matter in solar system would be equivalent to the mass of a small asteroid, but dark energy is everywhere. We don't have that much dark matter with us. Little bit is there, but not much. And the dark energy determines the expansion rate of the universe, also acts as a matrix to hold on to the universe. So our matter, visible matter, is resting on the dark matter, which we don't see it. And the dark matter, the dark energy is negligible effect or anything smaller than the supercluster, but it has got effect on the higher one. And now, as I mentioned here, are the dark matter, dark energy equivalent? They are not. You cannot simply find an equation like E is equal to mc square, the mass and energy are equivalent. Here they are not. Why? So Robert Scherer said the density of dark matter decreases as the universe expands. As I told you, the balloon, it expands, the dark matter decreases. But if you take the energy is constant, dark energy is constant. So whatever you expand, I'll come to that why it is that. And also Hawking says the force particle and matter particle are two facets of reality. The particle and antiparticle are two sides of reality. Only thing in our universe, we don't need antiparticle. So matter is continuously created to fill up the gaps between expanding galaxies. As you are expanding, you need matter. It is created. Now the question is, we are getting into the creation. There are two schools of thoughts. Whether the creation was out of nothing, creatio ex nihilo means out of nothing, God created out of nothing, or creatio continua, continuous creation. As I said, the people thought the universe is static till 1920. Then they believed God created the world and the world is there. The God is transcendent. God is somewhere there. He created the world and allowed it to go. But now in this continuously expanding the dynamic universe, God is continuously creating. The God is immanent. It is in the creation. So I don't want to go into that. Then at the end of the talk, one theology professor asked, where do you put the incarnation? So I said, in incarnation, the transcendent God becomes immanent God. So I escaped with that. So our universe is dynamic, incomplete. The creation goes on and on. And now we have another problem. See, the universe is expanding, but the gravitational force is trying to pull it, and there is a tug of war between these two. So it is expanding with the velocity v, and the gravity is fighting to bring back with the g. Right now, the velocity of expansion is much greater than the velocity of the gravitational force. But the difference is becoming less and less. So right now the velocity is more, gravitational force is less, but the difference is becoming less and less. That means one day you will get the velocity and the gravitational force will be equal. From then onwards, gravity takes the upper hand. It becomes more than the velocity. So the Big Bang starts coming down. The gravity pulls it. Then it comes to the smaller and smaller, that what we call the big crunch. The Big Bang, it started, it ends a big crunch. Then what happens? As you bring it, the volume smaller and smaller, the temperature goes up, the pressure goes up, another Big Bang will come. So it goes on. Don't worry, it will take a few million years, nothing to worry about that. So this goes on, the universe is going on, that's why the universe is dynamic. But beyond the Milky Way, it is still repulsive force, and the dark energy supersedes gravity. So in our universe, gravity is powerful, outside the other one is powerful. So dark energy is dominant in large scales of millions of light years. But ultimately, the second law of thermodynamics will take effect. You know, every time you do, the energy is not equal to the original energy. You lose, so little bit, then it comes little bit. So finally you are going to the heat death. Eventually the heat death is the one. So this universe is filled with billions of stars on the solar system. Our galaxy is called the Milky Way. Sun is one of the 200 billion stars in the Milky Way. and no other solar system has been discovered with life. I mean living things. And the total number of galaxies are 100 billion galaxies. It could be 200 billion. They have not reached the end of it. And the distance from Earth to the edge of the observable universe, the Hubble telescope, 46.5 billion light years, or 4.4 in 10 power 26 meters. So, and this is the universe, some picture of that. Now coming to the final part, how do we understand the reality? It is a wonders of invisible world. A singular point of universe, it has got neither mass nor energy. Originally there was void, and this dark matter created the Big Bang as particle and antiparticle. In our system there is misalignment between particle and antiparticle. Particles are with us, antiparticles are somewhere else, otherwise life would not have originated here. So the dominant matter in the Milky Way is particles, beyond that antiparticles. So in our universe gravity is attractive, but beyond the gravity is repulsive. So that's what I said. Now we are coming to what are the physics laws. Are they applicable in all frames of reference? It depends on the dimension and scale. For example, within the nucleus, like charges attract, but outside you say like charges repel each other. You say positive charge and positive charge will repel, but you have tough time in pulling out a proton from the nucleus where all the positive particles are sitting together. And also you take, there is a kind of symmetry in the world. In atom, you know, the core, the nucleus is positively charged and the periphery cloud is negatively charged. The opposite when you go to biology, you take the cell, the core is negative, the outside is positive, what you call the protoplasm. And it is so much so that there was in the 1960s, before all these antibiotics came, our skin is normally positive, positively charged, and when you meet with an accident, there is the what you call infection and all creates negative charges. And there was a physician in the US, he will make small wires of silver and put it there and make a small current to flow, and the healing was fantastic. He was not allowed to practice, there is a different matter, but it worked. And he said the positive charges helps us healing. So, and also the same thing he said, you might have seen when you are driving or when you are hitting a lizard, the lizard leaves the tail to dance in front of you, by the time you concentrate it escapes. But after some time the tail grows. For lizard, head to tail it is positive charge, then it flows negative. That is one of the reasons why the tail is able to grow. These are some of the primitive things which you take today and do. So this is in a smaller. You go to the mega world, planetary system, Kepler's law hold good. Practically the same rule for an atom, but Kepler's law there. And the gravitation is attractive in our universe, repulsive outside. So mainly to keep off the particles. And Robert Wilson in 1964 said there is a radiation coming from outside. In a Bell laboratory, two fellows who are doing something, there was a background radiation of 3K. 3K means nearly minus 270 centigrade or something. And they said something wrong with antenna, but everywhere it was coming. This is the remnant of the Big Bang. As I said, it is expanding, is cooling down. There is a 3K, 3 Kelvin radiation is there. That's why there is no possibility of life outside. This is the picture they have made, the baby picture, where this you say the 3K background was coming in, and you may not have life outside there. So the implications are the dark matter, dark energy pervade all through the universe, does not interact with visible matter, not with the electromagnetic force, only gravitational effect is felt. And it is invisible and transparent. It has gravity of its own, but dark matter outweigh the visible matter roughly 6-1. And the dark matter is the scaffold of matrix or matrix upon which visible matter is assembled. Dark matter holds stars in their orbits, prevents them from flying off, at the same time collapsing into each other. And in the Big Bang, particles, antiparticles would have been created. The antiparticles were forced out of our Milky Way, and out there the gravitational force is repulsive. Now, the dark matter, dark energy need not be necessarily related. As I said, the density of dark matter decreases with the expansion, but energy stays the same. And dark energy is the propelling the expansion of the universe, sustaining the stability of the universe. But it is essential to hold the galaxies and also needed to keep off the antiparticles. And given the multi-reality, now the question is there one universe or many universes or multiverse? I don't get into that. As a scientist, I don't have a problem, but theologians will not agree. Because there is only one universe, one human being, so I don't want to go into that. But people tend to believe there is the possibility of multiverse due to the theory of cosmic inflation. So, but I can say, ask science how the universe is there. Don't ask why the universe is there. The why of the universe go to the theologians. The how of the universe come to the scientists. And in between, I really recommend the book Grand Design by Hawking. He says there is a grand design. He's an atheist, so he doesn't talk about God, but the question is, who is the designer behind that? You have a design, but who is the designer? And he conveniently says, in American schools, you cannot talk about God, therefore I stop here. So grand design is there. Do we believe that God created a design and left it, or he goes along with that? So science has not said the final word, but the reality is various possibilities, and depending on your consciousness, you understand the world based on your data, based on your observation, based on your background. So it is a spectrum of possibility of probabilities. So one day the Big Bang and Big Crunch will happen. At that time the exhaustion of mass and energy will take place. But due to dark energy, the repulsive force will be there, but eventually entropy will take over. Then everything fails, and ultimately the repulsive force also fails. Then the union of matter with dark matter will come. Then what you call the ultimate energy, what supposed to be the original energy, what you call the Ur-Energie, we call it. And it says the cycle of Big Bang and Big Crunch, entropy leading to heat death, eventually reaching to the ultimate energy. What is the ultimate energy? The grand designer. In the words of Teilhard de Chardin, it's a Jesuit anthropologist, paleoanthropologist, he said it is the omega point. If everything emanated from God, it will ultimately go back to God. And that's what we read in the Bible, that if we are created in the image and likeness of God, then we have to go back. In between, all these things are happening. So ultimately, coming to that, everything we hear is an opinion. And everything we see is a perspective. So it's up to you. So the spectrum of possibilities of probabilities. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Clarifications?
One question, Father.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about gravity, people are talking about, when we talk about gravity, people are saying it's not really a force, it is a particle called a graviton. What is the present position with respect to the existence or the non existence of graviton?
It is just like we call it light. Light is made of photons. Photons, you can believe particles, but you don't perceive it. The same way, the gravity may be made up of gravitons. It is the tiny part of it which is not visible to us, so it is a force. The force also you have mass and acceleration, so where is the mass? So something called graviton is the constituent element of the force called gravity. So, thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Is that force is something like that of a boomerang that goes and comes back, or is it something like an arrow that goes from above? And is there a dark force? You say dark energy, dark matter. Is there a dark force?
I would say that in a way it is extended boomerang, because it starts with the Big Bang, then it expands, and it expands with the velocity, and the gravity is trying to bring it back. At some point the gravity comes, so the expansion goes like this. When velocity and gravity is equal, that is the maximum, then gravity takes the upper hand, it comes down. So it comes to what you call the big crunch. It practically similar to Big Bang, except that some entropy has come in, you have lost some energy. Then that is the initial conditions are practically repeated, then it goes. So ultimately it's a kind of boomerang that comes on a time scale. It starts and comes. It can be also understood this is one-way traffic because you don't get the same mass and energy. It is going on reducing. So either way you take it. The act of Big Bang, Big Crunch is boomeranging, but the direction in which it goes, it is single directional. You can also expand at the end what you call the original energy somewhere comes, which was there. So in the universe, there nothing goes waste, only it gets transformed. Yes.
How do you connect with the membrane theory?
I'm not an expert in membrane theory. Only I could say that the membrane, if I'm related to the cell, it has got similar to atom, only thing it's reversed. Otherwise, I'm not an expert. I don't want to claim on that. Anybody on membrane theory? It is a dark matter for me.
In general, they say the very big bang itself is due to the large, gigantic membranes, clashing with each other, and many big bangs are there actually. They go beyond the big bangs and they talk about the membrane theory.
Possible, but also membranes take some time to come into life, because initially the atoms are there, it becomes molecules, then it becomes cell, then there comes the membrane. It's a long way to go. I'm not sure whether the starting point is a membrane. The starting point is particles. Hydrogen, lithium, and helium, these are the things originally started. If you go to the periodic table, that on the right corner, that's the original materials started evolving there. Yes, Alan.
Father Francis, after listening to you as a theologian, I sincere appreciation to you, because although you mentioned the why and how of it, we are not far away from each other. You yourself a theologian also, not only scientist. We are open. I want to communicate to this August assembly that theologians are nowadays, after Vatican II, ever open to scientists, and then we can also correct and then rewrite our own theologies. But I was very much enlightened that by your lectures. A lot to read and a lot to learn also from you. And there is a Tamil song, கருப்பு தான் எனக்கு பிடிச்ச கலரு. No, there is a mystery in it. Karuputra. Because a mother's womb is dark. The song says. The entire creation in darkness. So I am very much inspired by the whole talk of dark matter and dark energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. Please write a theological article.
Yeah,
on that.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Father. Father, I have read somewhere that when an object gets into the black hole, then it cannot return back. And one more thing that I've read is when an object travels at the speed of light, then it gets into eternity. Are these two related? And how do we comprehend this?
They are not related. There's one is the velocity. According to Einstein's in the special theory of relativity, the second postulate, the velocity of light is the maximum speed one could reach when you start from rest. If you start from rest, you cannot go beyond the velocity of light. But there are certain things which always travel with velocity higher than light, and they cannot come below the velocity of light. Neutrino is one such thing. That's why they are not able to see that. So the world is divided into up to velocity of light, above velocity of light. So that isn't talk about eternity, because eternity is a spiritual concept. Physically they are in the world. And the black hole is just before your big crunch, when every matter is brought together. Anything that goes in, including light, will not come out. So it is a kind of everything is crunched together, and then it big bangs. It bangs again. So, yes, sir.
For the grand design, Stephen Hawking says, the universe doesn't need any external force to be created. It is created by its own physical law.
Yeah.
Due to its gravitational force, the entire universe is created.
Yeah.
And that will be the answer to the question, why? Am I correct?
No, the question is, where does the grand design come from? I agree, the world is functioning on a grand design. When we were in philosophy, they used to say, the watch is a grand design. Especially today, I don't need to change the day, time, year. It's a grand design. But can I say the watch came by itself? So the grand design is acceptable, but who is the power behind or force behind the grand design?
He says that it is due to gravitational force itself.
Who created that force?
The universe creates itself, he says.
No, it cannot be self. Then which is the one that can exist by itself?
The universe. Because
You may call universe, somebody may call God, doesn't matter. But is some force which is beyond the present existence is there, something or somebody designed it. The design cannot come by itself. That Hawking himself says that, who is the designer? He raises the question, he stops it. But the thing is, I personally, I don't have problem about the grand design theory. Fantastic theory. Only we take time to understand. The proton, neutron was there for centuries, but only in the 150 years ago, 200 years ago, they tried to find out. We are limited. But if there is a design, very good. But where does the design come? If you say that universe existed by itself, is it possible? Or there is some powers. Many of the scientists who may not profess God, they may call themselves, but all the time they say there is some power above, which I am not able to explain. In Indian context, you may call it Shakti.
And also, gravitational force is not the only force. There are other kinds of energies.
The unified
Gravitational
forces.
force may appear massive to our thing. And one more thing I would like to answer Dr. Swaminathan's question regarding photon and graviton.
Graviton.
Today we don't have the measurable devices to measure the mass or weight of those things lighter than electron. So we consider electron is the lightest particle. But the moment we have the instruments to detect the thing lighter than that, it may be possible. So it is limited. I believe that the possibilities of probabilities, it continues. Yes, as a scientist I do that.
Now, just to give an example of what Dr. Ali said, you know, when they say when an object is moving, you want to locate the object, you study the object, where the position, at the same time how fast it is going, you cannot simultaneously measure both 100%. Here, that is it's called the uncertainty. You concentrate on the position of the particle, the velocity is there. By the time you concentrate velocity, you are not sure where it is. It is not our problem. We don't have instrument to study both together. So this is called uncertainty principle. And there is the Heisenberg is the one who discovered this. And in front of his office, he put a note. If you go there, he will say, probably you are in my office. So that's it. Mike.
Very layman question. When I do something, I get, say, I cook, I get the food. So I become the creator. When all this is created, there must be a creator. Why you say beyond that we cannot understand? There must be a creator that you can explain.
No, that's understood, but someone who doesn't believe in a creator, he says there is some power above that. Both the same, ultimately it comes to that. We give a name, and even in the religion, every religion has not the same name for God. And even the God doesn't have the same name. So that is okay, but when atheist would say, I don't believe in the God, God means creator. But there is a power above that does. Most of the scientists who don't talk about religion or God explicitly, but if you go, they say, beyond this I cannot talk. There is something above.
Thank you, thank you.
Your talk was on the implications of dark energy.
Yeah.
I saw the presentation full of energy. Though the title was on dark energy, dark matter, etc., I had my own difficulty in understanding in the beginning of your presentation. But then, thank God, towards the fag end of your presentation, as a chemistry teacher, what I understood was, it pervades through the entire world, but then it neither interacts with the matter, nor does it interact with the electromagnetic spectrum. And therefore, all that we study in quantum mechanics and spectroscopy, they are all free from flaws. They are all fantastic. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I found a lot of energy in your presentation.
Thank you.